We are living in a world of remasters, and honestly, I kinda love it. But what about those JRPGs that have yet to get any sort of re-release? Let's get to talking about 10 JRPGs that are still stuck in the past on their original consoles. I love JRPGs, and I've played hundreds upon hundreds of them, from Ys to Final Fantasy to Pokemon. Sometimes I feel like I've played them all, but every now and then, among my internet travels, I find a game that I haven't heard of or didn't get the chance to play, only to find out it's stuck on a console that I don't own or have access to. Today, we're going to talk about 10 JRPGs that haven't seen any kind of port, remaster, remake, or any re-release at all. It's a shame, but that's enough talk. I've wasted enough time. Let's jump right into today's video and talk about 10 great JRPGs that time forgot and have been trapped in the past. First up, we'll start this list off with Albert Odyssey, The Legend of Eldian, released in 1997 for the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn is 100% a victim to having exclusive JRPGs, and this isn't the only game for the Sega Saturn that will be on this list. The Legend of Eldian is actually the third game in the series. While the first two games on the Super Famicom were strategy JRPGs and released exclusively in Japan, The Legend of Eldian was the first and only Albert Odyssey that got localized, and instead of being a strategy JRPG, it's turn-based. At its core, this is a very basic and slow turn-based JRPG. You have the typical commands, attack, item, magic, etc. However, while it is simplistic, the real reason this game shines is the translation. It was localized by Working Designs, and if you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s with JRPGs, or spent any amount of time around my channel, you will be well aware. Working Designs localized games have some of the most insane and over-the-top translations of that era. Sure, they weren't entirely accurate, and they have tons of pop culture jokes that make next to no sense these days, but they have an energy that you just can't beat. Those translations alone make games that would be, otherwise dull, incredibly fun. One thing I will say about Albert Odyssey though, that game is slow. From the loading times in the menu, to the loading times before battle, to just how slow actions perform in battle, waiting, and more waiting. With that being said though, the game is fantastic, and I would love to see it ported to modern day hardware. So gung-ho. Now that you're done with Lunar, Albert Odyssey collection when? 3D Game Heroes, released for the PlayStation 3 in 2009 by Silicon Studio and published by Atlus. Oh hey, that's cool. Atlus puts out a lot of great games, and wait a minute, From Software? They published it in Japan? Alright, From Software, set the Souls-likes aside, it's time to revisit 3D Game Heroes. Anyways, I know what you're thinking. 3D Game Heroes is not a JRPG, and you'd be right, it's more of a Zelda-style action-adventure game. But since it's so obviously inspired by games like Dragon Quest with its intro, its music, and just the overall feel of the game, I feel like it deserves to be mentioned. I actually haven't finished this game. It's been a while, but I think I got through the second or third dungeon and then just kinda stopped. 3D Game Heroes just oozes style, and it feels kinda like a cross between an 8-bit and 16-bit JRPG, but in 3D. The NPCs feel like they're pulled out of the first Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, and the gameplay is essentially pulled out of Link to the Past, complete with bombs, boomerangs, and the hookshot. However, I feel like the most memorable part of the game is the fact that you can level up your sword to the point where you can attack an entire screen. In fact, Atlus actually kinda leaned into the whole 18+ big sword joke, if you know what I mean. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Some of those early 2000s commercials were risque. Anyone remember the original commercial for Record Vigorous War on the 360? No, I'm not showing that on this channel because that commercial is too much for even me. But as for 3D Game Heroes, I just really want to remaster this game or even a port. It still feels unique even 16 years later, and if you still have a PlayStation 3, I highly suggest you try it out. The next game is from Gus, somewhat similar to the Atelier games of the era, our tonelico Melody Valamia, released for the PlayStation 2 in 2006. And you know what? Might as well throw the sequel in as well, our tonelico 2, Melody of Metaphalica, also released for the PlayStation 2 in 2007. Actually, you know what? Let's throw our tonelico Koga for the PlayStation 3 as well into the mix and just talk about the whole series. Seriously, what's going on? If there was a series ripe for an HD remaster, it would be the Tonelico series. For the record, I'm aware that there are probably licensing issues because they were initially localized by NIS America, but now Koei Tecmo handles Gus products. Our tonelico is a series that, like any other Gus series, uses crafting. However, unlike the Atelier franchise, the crafting kinda takes a back seat, and our tonelico is more of a story focus. However, what makes our tonelico stand out has to be the simdate aspect. As you play through the games, you can recruit Ravatails. They're essentially songstresses that use song magic, and to enhance them, you must go into their cosmospheres, which is basically their brains, to get them to open up to you more. And the further you dive into these cosmospheres, the more abilities they learn. In these cosmospheres, you learn all about deep secrets of the girls. Some of them can be a bit racy in typical anime fashion. Maybe one day we will see these games available for purchase because I'd love to replay them again. If not only because they're fun, but the second game has numerous game-breaking bugs and a remaster or remake might be able to fix them. I know, people love Lufia 2, and thanks to playing it last year, I love it now too. Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals, released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, went from being a game I thought was overrated and only loved because of nostalgia, to one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. I actually put out a review for this too, so feel free to check that out after you're finished with this video. Seriously though, Lufia 2 is an absolute gem of a game, and if you haven't played it yet, you should definitely consider it whenever you get the chance. It has a great story, it has great characters, the puzzles in it are top notch, which by the way is a feature of JRPGs I wish was more prominent these days, and the music is top tier. That Sinistral battle theme still blows me away every time I hear it. Even as far as Super Nintendo JRPGs go, which there are a handful of absolutely amazing ones, Lufia 2 is on a whole other level. No other game on that console features a puzzle system anywhere close to what Lufia 2 did with its tools. Yes, I know the Wild Arm series does the same sort of thing, and I'm like 99% sure that the tools in the Wild Arm series were inspired by Lufia 2. It's a tragedy that Lufia 2 hasn't seen a re-release anywhere. I'd even be okay if the game just got a simple port to Nintendo Switch Online if possible. But in a perfect world, they would take Lufia 1, enhance it, seriously, those fetch quests were too much, and tack it onto the end of Lufia 2 as it's a direct sequel. Make Lufia 1 and 2 one huge game and I would be a happy camper. Now, go play Lufia 2 and enjoy the 10 out of 10 greatness. Legend of Legaia, released for the original PlayStation in 1998. So honestly, this is a game I'm surprised that hasn't gotten re-released, even as a PlayStation classic. You have all the bangers there, Threads of Fate, Xenogears, Grandia, yet Legend of Legaia is nowhere to be found. This is kind of a shame because Legend of Legaia has one of the most unique battle systems I've ever experienced in any JRPG. You do attacks in certain combinations in order to get special moves, and they're just super stylish. There are other reasons why this game needs a new release as well. For example, if you play the original game on anything that isn't a PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2, there's a glitch that prevents you from finishing the game, not to mention the game's tendency to crash on a PlayStation 3. I suppose emulation is always an option, but that's not for everyone. Legend of Legaia is just such a joy to play, and if you can get past the incredibly high encounter rate and the very PlayStation 1 graphics, it's a great game. I'd love the opportunity to re-experience the game because I remember having such a blast trying out different combinations of attacks and getting hyped up whenever a new special move sparked. Who knows? In this age of remakes and remasters, this might end up being one of them. And it absolutely should, because I know many people who need to play Legend of Legaia and experience it for themselves. This and a certain other Xbox 360 game are a few games that I will never understand why they have remained trapped on that console. Blue Dragon, released for the Xbox 360 in 2006, is up there as the JRPG with one of my favorite battle systems ever. It's no surprise that I am drawn towards JRPGs with a job system. I love customization, especially when those job systems let you completely break the game and turn your characters into mini gods. However, I think one of the best aspects of Blue Dragon has to be the ability to collect nothings, which is literally just that. You check random areas and you get a nothing, which initially seems kind of pointless, but you can trade them later on for really powerful accessories. Like I said previously, I don't understand why Blue Dragon hasn't seen any kind of port on any other console or PC. I know whenever people talk about 360 and its best exclusives, Blue Dragon comes up 90% of the time. I'm hoping with that recent tool to reverse engineer 360 games into native PC ports, that somehow Blue Dragon can get a PC port in the near future. I have so many memories of playing Blue Dragon back in the mid 2000s that I would love the opportunity to relive them. Well, at least until then, they're playable via backward compatibility on the Series X, so that's a step in the right direction. I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to say that we need more job system JRPGs because I can't think of a single one that wasn't amazing. Remember how I did a whole video ranking the Wild Arms series? You don't remember? Well, looks like you have something to watch after this video then, Anyways, let's talk about Wild Arms XF, released in 2007 for the PSP. The Wild Arms series as a whole is something I miss, but while each and every Wild Arms game has received a re-release via PlayStation Classics, Wild Arms XF hasn't even seen the light of day after its original release. This is probably because it's one of the lesser known games in an already very niche series, but honestly, it doesn't deserve that, because while it is a bit unorthodox with not only being a strategy RPG in a turn-based series, it has a hex grid over a square grid, and Wild Arms XF is such an incredibly fun game with one of the most enjoyable villains on the little handheld. Strategy RPGs are something I have to be in a certain mood for, but Wild Arms XF is a go-to as it's fantastic in every way. The characters are entertaining, and the gameplay somehow maintains that turn-based feeling while being migrated to a strategy RPG. The art style is also incredibly reminiscent of previous games in the series. If you still have a PSP, or ways to play PSP games, hint hint, nudge nudge, I would highly suggest Wild Arms XF. Not only is it stuck on the PSP, but I would also consider it a hidden gem. A hidden gem that should by no means be missed by anyone. Remember a few minutes ago when I mentioned that the Xbox 360 had 2 games that deserve to be freed from the Xbox 360? Well, Blue Dragon is one, but the other is Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey was released in 2007 by Mistwalker. Now, the Xbox 360 was not amazing for JRPGs, but the ones that are on that console are actually incredibly good. Lost Odyssey used a ring system that was similar to games like Legend of Dragoon, which is totally another game you should play, as it involved pressing buttons at the correct moment to increase damage or other effects. Lost Odyssey is actually a game that I haven't had the opportunity to finish yet, but it's one that I really want to get back to. It looks beautiful and has a heartfelt story that will even make the most manliest of grown men weep. I'm not even exaggerating, some of those dream sequences are incredibly emotional and heartbreaking. I do want to also mention that this game looks incredibly gorgeous for how old it is. It's aged incredibly well, and if Mistwalker or Microsoft were to re-release it, you almost wouldn't need any kind of enhancements. Give it a frame rate boost, maybe a resolution increase, and it would fit right in. Luckily, while it isn't the same game by any means, the new game coming out, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, kinda feels the same as far as combat goes. So if you're looking for something similar, that is always an option. The 3DS is an absolute bop of a handheld. It had several amazing games that were exclusive to it that never got the opportunity to shine elsewhere. Out of all the games on the handheld, I had to pick Shin Megami Tensei 4, released in 2013, and its pseudo-sequel Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, released in 2016. The Shin Megami Tensei series has been getting an incredible amount of support in recent years. With remasters and remakes, there's no reason why Shin Megami Tensei 4 shouldn't be made more available. We have games like Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne Remastered, Soul Hackers 2, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. This year we had the remaster of Raido Kuzunoha and the Soulless Army get announced. And then there's the sister spin-off series, Persona, which is getting re-releases and remakes like Persona 5 Royal, Persona 3 Reloaded, and even a very heavy rumor of Persona 4 getting a remake. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is among my favorite Shin Megami Tensei games, despite the game being incredibly difficult. I love how dark the story is, the demon recruiting system, and just the all-over supporting characters. Navarre, he's a great character, and I will not accept any slander. I know Atlus is promising a Shin Megami Tensei game every year, and hopefully next year they consider remaking or remastering Shin Megami Tensei 4, because I know it kind of felt swept under the rug. If it was up to me, I'd try and combine the vanilla Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse into one another and give alternate route options, kinda like Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. That would be the definitive way to play the games. But if you have a 3DS still, I want you to consider playing Shin Megami Tensei 4 because it's an experience that is still unique to me given all of the JRPGs I've played. Remember how I mentioned that Sega Saturn was going to make an appearance in today's list again? Well, here it is. Shining in the Holy Ark, released for the Sega Saturn in 1996. Shining is actually a series I haven't got the opportunity to jump into. In fact, I've only played spin-off titles that play entirely different from the main series, which are strategy RPGs. Those games being Shining Force Neo and Extra for the PlayStation 2, which I know people don't generally care for, and Shining Wisdom for the Sega Saturn, which is more of a Zelda-like top-down adventure game. Now, Shining in the Holy Ark is more of a first-person dungeon crawler, and while I don't usually care for dungeon crawlers, what really drew me towards the game is the music. The OST is composed by the amazing Motoi Sakuraba, also known for games like Star Ocean, Tales of Symphonia, and Golden Sun. He's a composer I've mentioned many times before, as he is among my favorite composers of all time. As for the game, I just love the clunky 3D models for enemies in this game. They look ridiculous, but also very reminiscent of the era. They have that certain charm. It's a pity that Sega Saturn has so many games that are trapped on that console. Just so I don't get called out for not mentioning it, yes, Panzer Dragoon Saga was considered along with Shining Wisdom, Dragon Force, Princess Crown, and Legend of Oasis. Seriously, the Sega Saturn was a powerhouse when it came to JRPGs. Oh well, maybe one day we'll see the library born again. Sega Saturn Mini maybe? So there you have it. There are so many more JRPGs trapped in the past than what I mentioned, but I feel like these are 10 of the most noteworthy ones. Did I miss a JRPG that you feel deserves new life? If so, let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ding that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Before you head off though, why not watch another video if you enjoyed this one? I suggest this one. I'm sure it's something you're going to enjoy. This has been Shinky, thanks so much for watching, and until next week's video, have a wonderful day.